Villains. They come in all shapes and sizes, from very comedic goofballs to evil masterminds, etc. But then there are villains that are just, what the heck? Villains that are either creepy, pure evil, or even both. So for Halloween, we're going to talk about the most terrifying cartoon villains, in my opinion. Danny Phantom is an animated series created by Butch Hartman, best known for The Fairly Odd Parents. It was a show that lasted from 2004 to 2007. I had to admit, I have mixed feelings about this show. It's not a bad show by any means, as it does have some good elements like the ghost characters and some cool action, but everything else, like the side characters and how some episodes would just play out, just didn't work for me. Especially in shows like, with the, Sidney Poindexter. But no matter what you think of the show, one thing anyone can agree is that Dark Danny is not only one of the coolest villains ever, but also one of the creepiest. He is Danny Fenton from the future, and he is not a good person at all. What makes him quite terrifying is not his lack of empathy or wanting destruction for the sake of destruction, it's his origins. It's revealed that after trying to cheat on a math test, there was an explosion that killed Danny's friends and family. Ridden with guilt, Dan was forced to move in with the villain, Vlad Masters. Danny asked Vlad to take away his human half so he wouldn't have to suffer human emotions anymore. Unfortunately, in doing so, his human half ripped Vlad of his ghost self, and once combined him and Ghost Vlad, things went real bad news. The fact that Dark Danny is a product of guilt and loss of loved ones is rather depressing, but also terrifying for a kids show. Oh boy, Mrs. Tweedy. Who knew that Armin would make an ordinary farmer into a rather scary villain? What makes her really scary is how her farm is set up, as it's set up like a prison than a farm with barbed wires, tough security, etc. The way she treats her chickens is also rather messed up, from whipping her glove to keep them in line, to how when one of her chickens can't lay eggs anymore, then one of them is in for the chop. Literally, as she chops their heads off with an axe. Especially that one scene in the movie. Oh boy, that one scene. And the fact she takes great pleasure in chopping their heads is even more messed up. In fact, she gets nastier as the movie progresses. When the chickens try to escape, she goes full-blown serial killer, willing to harm innocent animals. What a monster. Even in the more lighter sequel, Tweety has not lost her menacing side, with her plot to turn sentient chickens into nuggets. Yikes. First premiered in 1997, the Pokemon anime has become one of the most popular and successful animes of all time, following the adventures of Ash, now Liko, and his Pikachu. Now, the anime is no stranger to dark and scary villains, from Hunter J, to Green's Kodai, to even Giovanni himself, but I have to pick out Pokemon's creepiest foe, it would have to be the Malamar from the XY series. Its looks are already unsettling, with its virgin eyes, squid-like hair, and the fact that it can use its hypnosis to make people in Pokemon do its bidding. So making it the villain is already even more terrifying. In the episode of Conspiracy to Conquest, we assume that it's another evil human using Pokemon to do its bidding, that being Madam X. However, in a shocking twist, it was actually the Malamar who was the real mastermind all along. And X is just really a mind-controlled Officer Jenny, a police officer. The Malamar returns with two other Malamars, where they plan to use a device to take over the world while holding our heroes as hostages. Only James, Meowth, Clement, and other Malamars in Inkcase can stop this threat. While they were able to foil the plan, the Malamars were able to escape the future, but with the threat of return one day. The fact that these creatures never show up again is really unsettling. 100J at least got her comeuppance later on in the series, but these creatures don't. And that's what terrifies me. First aired in 2007, Phineas and Ferb has become one of the most beloved cartoons on the Disney Channel, with even getting revivals soon enough. While the series is usually lighthearted, there are some times when the show can get messed up. In the episode Phineas and Ferb get busted, after Candace manages to expose Phineas and Ferb's antics to their mom, she sent them to a reform school called Smart Away Academy, which looks nice, but when they get there, it's actually a torture camp run by a cruel warden who has no name, who believes that creativity and fun are dangerous for kids, and is determined to knock them out. While not without his funny moments, the drill sergeant is one of the most scariest villains in Disney television history. The fact that he created a place to turn children into mindless drones is already messed up, but the fact that no one's tried to do anything about it, this horrible place is even worse. Seeing him take delight in Phineas and Ferb's suffering is just horrifying, especially since not only are Phineas and Ferb just kids, but they did nothing wrong to the guy. All they did was just create and invent stuff. Now, you could say that Linda is the real villain of the episode since she was the one who sent them in the first place. But the drill sergeant was clearly the one who gave them the idea, as he basically lied to parents that their children will be alright when in actuality they're not. What a scumbag. Now, sure, it does turn out to be all just a dream from Candace, which is actually Perry's. But for the majority of this episode, he was just a total monster. He deserved to die in the end. Toy Story 3 is considered to be the darkest in the Toy Story franchise. And I thought that's all thanks to this unhuggable teddy bear, Lotso Huggin' Bear. Lotso is one of Pixar's most evil foes ever, and boy, I can see why. While on the surface, he seems nice, giving the toys a tour of the sunny side, but underneath all that fur is a real rotten grizzly bear. It turns out that Sunnyside is actually a toy prison, and Lotso rules it with a fluffy iron fist. He also shows no remorse to those around him, treating even as total garbage or as servants to serve his dictatorship. But what really makes him a total monster is during that one scene at the end of the film, where the toys are about to be burned alive, and Lotso is the only one to save them, but he doesn't. And this was after Woody and Buzz saved his life. Now, sure, the toys are saved by the LGMs, and Lotso is eventually defeated, but still, that fire scene I will never forget when I saw that film in theaters in 3D, mind you. Like Buttercup said, the guy may seem plush and huggable on the outside, but inside, he's a monster. If there's one good thing you can say about Lotso, it's that he smells like strawberries. The main villain of SpongeBob, and one of Nick's most iconic villains, Plankton is usually portrayed as cunning, devious, but also a bit silly at times. But by the first movie, Plankton's evilness turned up to 100. After many failed attempts, Plankton's Plan Z is proven to be his most villainous. He starts by framing Mr. Krabs by stealing King Neptune's crown, with the chance of him being executed, succeeds in stealing the Krabby Patty formula, and turns the entirety of the King of Bomb into a dictatorship. Turn all the beloved characters into mindless saves. And those aren't even out of character for him. Previous episodes hinted at this too, and jeepers, he can get real dangerous at times. The fact that he hires a hitman named Dennis to kill our main heroes is rather ruthless. And by the film's end, it looks like he's going to win against the heroes as he uses a bucket on King Neptune to kill SpongeBob, Patrick, and Mindy, Neptune's daughter. Now, sure, SpongeBob defeats the little guy thanks to the power of rock and saves the day, but still, this is easily Plankton's most evilest betrayal in SpongeBob history. We're gonna get to this red guy soon enough. Considered to be the Powerpuff Girls' greatest and most dangerous foe, him as a mysterious, sinister, vile, and very feminine being. His looks are utterly insane along with those dang green eyes and that wicked smile of his, and especially that voice. Dang that voice. Voice can go from a high pitch to going deep, deep, deep. But what really makes him especially scary is his powers and how he uses them, preferring to use mind games to torment the girls, from turning the girls as friends and families against him, to using their fears against them, to throwing them at riddles. But without a doubt, his most sinister and messed up action is in the infamous Speed Demon, an episode that I consider to be not only one of, if not the darkest episode of any kids show ever. When the girls race forward in time, him manages to turn not just Townsville, but the entire world into a apocalyptic hell. And what's worse, the girls cannot defeat him, and there's no way to save the day except to make sure it never happens again and go back in time. Holy smokes. Courage the Cowardly Dog is no stranger to creepy villains, as any can basically make the list. But if I had to pick one, I'd say that the Great Fusilia is the most creepiest villain in the franchise. While he may not look unsullen like Ramesses, he makes up for it in execution. He's a traveling stage magician that lures innocent people into making them stars, but is actually a trap as he uses his magic strings to turn them into lifeless puppets. And Muriel used his arm on his victims, turning them into puppets forever. What makes the Fusilia the creepiest to me is that, unlike most villains, he successfully manages to kill Muriel. While he is defeated by the end, Muriel is still a puppet and Courage is left in insanity. Dang, even for the show that's messed up. Thank God for negative continuity. One of the main enemies of Kids Next Door, the delightful children are the exact opposites to the Kids Next Door. While the K&D are rebellious and want freedom for all kids, these on the other hand are more like the obedient kids that they do everything that they're told, no matter how awful it is. What makes these very unsettling is like him, the way they talk and look, as they are basically a hive mind with no individuality of their own. Even their looks are downright unsettling, managing to make Project Clothes look downright creepy, and those blue eyes are just the icing on their cake. Looking like they're dead inside, like their souls have been broken. But what truly makes them disturbing is their secret history. In the special Operation Zero, it is revealed that the delightful children are actually the long-lost members of Sector Z, who have been brainwashed or delightfulized by their father into mindless zombies. Just the fact that losing what makes you what you are as a person, to a person, who places great pleasure on you is just sad. They may be called delightful children, but anything about these kids is anything but. I can't gush enough how I adore Puss in Boots: The Last Wish. I love everything in the movie. The painted art style, the laugh out loud dark comedy, the sometimes dark moments, and that all comes down to one sinister character. At first, we assume this wolf is just a bounty hunter looking to kill Puss. But as the film goes along, we learn that this wolf is actually Death himself. Not metamorphically, poetically, or theatrically, or any other fancy way. He is Death. Straight up. What makes Death quite possibly the scariest villain to me is he's the literal embodiment of the end of life itself, which is extremely dark stuff for a kid's film. The fact that the wolf is never defeated but just spares Puss until the day he dies is rather unsettling, because we're all gonna die one day, not today. Personally, I think Death is the scariest cartoon foe ever, and it literally deserves the highest position. Alright, that's my list. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment, and I'll see you all next time. Do, 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 do.